Hey, all, welcome. We'll get started in about 3 minutes. So,
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Matt Milashevsky. I am the host of today's webinar. We're going to begin in about 3 minutes, so just hold on tight and we'll let the scragglers come in and then we'll begin. Thanks, everybody. All right, we're going to give it 2 more minutes, everybody, and then we're going to begin. Thanks, everybody, for their patience.
you gotta love the internet hotel room. The internet went out just then, and so I'm using my hotspot.
Okay. Okay, well, I think we can begin. So, Dustin, if you want to share your screen and maybe go off camera too, that might be the best way to go.
All right. Yeah, one moment. I get that vaccine. Sorry about that. Um, Sounds good. Oh, yeah. There we go.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. My name is Matt Milashevsky. I am the host and MC of today's webinar, Mastering M365 Copilot. We're joined by Dustin Willard, who is one of our M365 Copilot MVP resources. Very excited to have him on the show today. We're going to go through a couple of slides here very quickly before we turn things over to Dustin. So Dustin, can you move to the next slide for me? All right, so just a quick agenda of what we're going to be covering today. We've already started introductions. We're going to briefly talk about Cambay's capabilities, specifically how we're approaching AI in today's world. We're going to then do some education about M365. And then also we're going to talk about some of the challenges we see with organizations as they look to implement AI. We're going to talk about our framework, ROI, and then get into the Microsoft Ignite 2025 highlights. We're also going to share a quick demo of one of the newest features in SharePoint. And then we're going to talk about next steps. Also, I like to point out we're going to be having a secondary webinar in January focusing on Copilot agents and AI in January 14th, just as a teaser, and we'll be sharing that email very shortly after today's meeting. All right, next slide, Dustin. All right, just very briefly about Cambay Solutions. We're part of an umbrella of organizations based out of Houston, Texas, with over 1,200 employees, focusing on IT staffing as well as healthcare solutions. In the Cambay Solutions world, we've been in business for over 13 years, and we really focus on solving our customers' challenges, transforming them, leveraging Microsoft capabilities. Obviously, we're talking about M365 Copilot, so we do a lot of work in migrations, implementations of SharePoint, as well as Copilot. We work in the dynamic space, which includes CRM and ERP, as well as having an Azure data platform and Power BI practice. Also, I think what's important to note is that AI is being infused into all of our solutions. So as we look at how we implement, it's a little bit of a different world out there. So as you can see, we have a variety of kind of all the solution partner designations. As I mentioned, Dustin Willard is one of only 9 Copilot MVPs in the US. So we're really making some heavy, investments into how organizations approach AI, and really excited to kind of show off today what we can do for you. Dustin, next slide, please. All right. As I said, it's not about technology, right? We see AI and really the AI economy changing the way that we go to work. For us, when it comes to looking at AI, most organizations have some sort of AI initiative. What we do is help our customers guide them kind of through how they can adopt all these different solutions in place, but also make sure that it's practical, scalable, and it's going to be driving to what we consider business outcomes, right? So what are we trying to solve for? What is the clear business value? What's the ROI it's going to provide to organization? Is it reducing cost? Is it improving your customer experience, right? But as you look at implementing these solutions, really tying that to what the business outcome is critical. A, for kind of coming up with relevant solutions, but then also from, how you get buy-in from your executive teams on that. The other large component that we think about is when it comes to the human change which is involved. AI is changing the way that we work. Organizations are all on different maturity curves. When you look at these solutions, you need to take into account how the design is. Is it, is the UI, easy and intuitive? What's the maturity of your kind of employee base? How open are they to train? So as we take a look at these solutions, we kind of take a look at these 3 different aspects along with it, as well as the need for what the kind of the technology is going to be. So Dustin, if you can go to the next slide, that'd be great. And as I alluded to, it's just not about the technology. It's about why, what, and the how. Why are you changing? What's the impact it's going to have on your organization? What are you going to be able to change? How ready are you for any of these sort of AI initiatives? What does your legacy technology debt looks like? What does all your platforms look like? What is feasible to do? And then lastly, also, what's very important is how you're going to make it stick. As I said, it is going to change the way that you work. It is going to make your employees more valuable. Some of them are going to be resistant to change. You need to take all of this into account as you take a look at implementing any sort of technology solution, but specifically with AI, and it's something we take very seriously. And so before Dustin, if you want to go to the next slide one more time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Dustin here in 2 seconds. But as I said, we're super excited to have him on our team. He has been in the Microsoft channel for 15 plus years. He leads our Microsoft partnerships. As I said, he's an MVP, 1 out of 9 in the US. Dustin, I know I'm stealing your thunder a little bit, but I'll turn the floor over to you and we can jump into the presentation. Last thing I want to kind of point out to the people, if you have any questions, please put them in the QA. We'll try to address them along the way, or we'll address them at the end. So Dustin, the floor is yours. Dustin, you're on mute, by the way.
Gotta love demos. It's always something. But yes, Dustin Willard here. I am a M365 Copilot MVP, also a SharePoint MVP for the last 4 years. I lead the global Microsoft partnership here at Cambay. So really creating the relationship with Microsoft, driving how we approach projects and bring them in such a way that we get true adoption and growth. And so deep expertise in SharePoint M365 Copilot, but beyond that, I wrote the first book on SharePoint Premium, which is here in my back, that came out, I guess, a year and a half ago, with a few other folks, including Microsoft. And so that was really Microsoft's first stab at AI before Copilot came out. So that was really a fun experience. And so I am passionate about empowering organizations with any Microsoft technology. So if you guys want to talk about any 365 area, period, I'm happy to have a conversation with you offline or so on. So with that, enough about me. Let's move on. So what is M365 Copilot? I think that we probably all have some baseline at this point. If not, you've probably been living under a rock. And so, but I feel like we have to at least cover some of this. So AI is your teammate across Word, Excel, Teams, and everything else. You can, especially with extensibility features like Copilot Studio and Azure AI Foundry and so on, you can really grow this to hit any line of business system that you have and so on. The benefits are it automates all of your repetitive tasks. And you can even schedule things now. And now GPT 5.2 is rolling out. So there's a ton of opportunity to really, really automate things that, were mundane and things that, you could get your time back and actually redeploy that to something more useful. It also helps enhance creativity and decision making. And leverages secure context-aware AI built on your organization's data. And so that is one thing I want to really call out here. So you guys just are aware, all of your permissions and are recognized within 365 Copilot, and the models are not being trained on your data. If you're using Bing Copilot and you ask a question, the model is actually training the questions and getting that back to the solution and to give someone else the answer. So you upload a file that's a trade secret or something, or Bing Copilot would that in the database. Scary, and your people should not be doing that. With M365 Copilot, everyone gets M365 Copilot now. If you don't have the paid version, you get just Chat, which is kind of like Bing Copilot, except for it keeps all of your data in your tenant and the models aren't trained on it. And if you have the paid license, then it actually looks across all of your tenant data that you have permissions to and access, and it takes all that into account. And that's one thing I just want to call out. There used to be security by obscurity in SharePoint. You may not have ever went to a file. Well, if you have permission to it, when you ask the question, it's going to take that into account. So there's just something to keep in mind that security is very important around this. And that's what a lot of what they address later on in the presentation about in the Ignite announcements and so on. So with that, we'll jump over to navigating adoption challenges. So really, the employee resistance is a challenge. People are worried about AI. They think AI is going to take their job. It's going to, be a problem for them in some way. They're going to not be as valued and so on. And so that's just one thing to keep into account. And really, then the skills gaps. A lot of people aren't trained. A lot of companies that we work with, they had initially rolled out Copilot and turned it on, and the adoption goes like the cliffhanger game on Price is Right. So it's really far up, and then it drops off the cliff. And that's because people don't know what they don't know. Before you could fish, like go fishing, someone had to teach you how to fish, how to cast, how to reel it in. When the fish takes the hook, it takes the bobber down. And someone had to teach you that. And that's the same goes with AI. You have to understand how to use the tools. And that's one thing Cambay is, really good at, is ensuring that people get the buy-in and know how to use the tools, so their adoption is very seamless. They think that Copilot is going to do something that maybe it doesn't do, or they're just not clear on what is available and what use cases they want to use it for. We help our clients all the time really define what the best high value business cases are to show the benefits. I've actually worked with a few companies, and so everyone would benefit from M365 Copilot. And but the problem is it's very expensive. We're able to address with these high value business use cases with something that may just, be leaps and bounds better and give a high value to the organization where it cost justifies everyone getting it, and therefore the whole organization benefits. And so really defining those high value use cases right up front is critical. Data and governance, ensuring your data quality and ownership is correct. A lot of organizations are very scared because, again, my point about security, I had a client that literally they had worked at a company when it was a startup, and it was 3 people. Now it's 16,000 people. He had access to an Excel spreadsheet that had everyone's names in it, and it was just like a roll call of employees. Well, over the course of 16 years, they ended up putting people's home addresses, security numbers, and payroll information. So how much money they were making. So this one person who was employee number 3, now 16,000 people are there. He asked what the CEO's salary was, and he got the answer back because that spreadsheet contained that information and he had access to it. That's a problem, right? And that is scary for a lot of organizations because but with tools like SharePoint Advanced Management, and Purview, and so on, we're able to ensure that those things don't happen. When we block the information that you need or that you don't need access to, and especially the Copilot shouldn't see, then we make sure that you have the right access to things. And so a lot of times we have been talking about like using metadata tagging and so on to enhance our data and governance. Now there's going to be tools like the knowledge agent that I'm going to share in a little bit that can help us address that. So Purview can auto label it and so on, and ensure that people only have access to information. So our framework for Copilot and readiness and adoption, we have to define a strategy. Whenever you're going into Copilot, you don't have a strategy, you just give it to everyone. It's going to fail because it's not clear. You don't know people don't know what they're going to use this for, right? They haven't thought it through. And so coming up with that strategy and vision of what we want and ensuring leadership buys in, because a lot of people feel like they're cheating when they're using it. In the sense that, hey, I used to have to build these presentations. I used to have to write this document. I used to have to complete this statement of work or this contract by hand and type it all out. And now AI is doing it. So it feels like I'm cheating. So having a strong leader who says they use it every day, they're working through it, and how much it's helping them really goes a long way to ensuring that the outcome that you want is going to be founded. So then assess readiness. We audit the data security and technology to ensure your environment is prepared for AI. That goes back to everything I've been saying about security up till now. So I won't go too deep more into that, but ensuring that social security numbers aren't in documents, or credit card numbers aren't in documents that people are going to be able to say, hey, what's all the credit card numbers that are in my tenant? And they get a whole slew of answers. It's important probably to address. And so we help our clients just make sure they're AI ready up front. Then we identify the use cases that are high value, and then set up pilot groups to actually show the momentum and impact. And ultimately, that usually takes off. So after you do the first few high value ones, everyone starts to realize, oh man, this could really help save a lot of time and money for companies. So then that usually rolls to everyone else after that. So then we enable and train. So this is when I say enable and train, I say develop a comprehensive training plan, power champions, and communicate the benefits. But this is a journey, not a one-time thing. AI is changing so rapidly. If you can imagine when ChatGPT first came out versus now when we have the new GPTs, it's insane how different it is. We kind of started at pre-Google days with the ands and the ors and the buts and the parentheses that had to go around things when you did a search, and that's kind of how ChatGPT was up front. But now it's getting even closer and closer to pure natural language, 100%, and a lot easier to use. But you have to still understand how to ask it the right questions to get the right answers. Um, AI is lazy by design. If you don't explain what you want it to do, it's not going to do it. You have to explain really robustly what you want to get the final end result. And we help our clients do that, along with, hey, I'd love to automate this financial statement. It takes me a week to run and put in a pivot table and then upload it to upload it to Power BI or so on and then manipulate all these things. It'd be awesome to be able to just run a prompt and it does everything for me. We help our clients do things like that too, to really get going. And then scale and optimize. We deploy in phases. So you can't do it all at once. If you try to do it all at once, it's going to fail because you're not focused on what you're trying to achieve. And so that's why that strategy is very important at the beginning. But then also monitoring the adoption and iterating all the time with new ways to get people to use the tool. We do different games and different scenarios that ultimately really get people going on it as they're starting this journey, because again, it's a journey, and always with the robust governance to ensure that it's successful. All right, so technical readiness. So data and permissioning, obviously, like we've been talking about, evaluating data quality and access controls. Then the permission lifecycle. SharePoint Advanced Management is amazing for going through and seeing, hey, are we sharing to people outside the organization? Are we oversharing this document? It doesn't appear like this document should be shared with everyone in the organization. And we can use those tools to prevent that. We can also get people AI ready right up front using SharePoint Advanced Management or SAM. We can use restrictive access control. That tool allows us to give the power of permissioning back to the IT admins. So you can imagine you have an HR site, you give ownership to the HR director. They end up sharing a document or sharing the site with someone. It breaks the permissions IT had already set up. And ultimately, now people will have access to it in Copilot, right? Well, with SharePoint Advanced Management's restrictive access control, we're able to say, hey, actually, this site, it needs to only be this security group or these 5 people or whatever, right? And no matter what, even if the owner shared the file or shared the site with somebody else outside of that group, it will not allow them to access the site, and therefore Copilot cannot see that information. So powerful thing to get going on AI. I like to say we take things at a zero trust level, meaning everything it could be potentially dangerous until we went through and determined, yeah, there are social security numbers or credit card numbers, etc., in this site. We should probably have that locked down and peel the onion back slowly instead of all at once. And then resiliency and backup, employing the M365 backup and archive tool. So you're able to recover information and make sure that you're relying on all retention is another thing that truly makes the tool just safe to use and not going to change tomorrow. So adoption and best practices. So we have to clarify all rules and policies, set clear data handling policies, review access rights, enforce robust security measures, right? So we've talked about most of those items. So I'll just, I think I'll move through that. But then evaluating your technology readiness. So assessing any hardware, software, network capabilities to ensure compatibility with M365. I know that seems weird to say, but a lot of machines in the past are not capable or at the high level of quality they need for AI to run effectively and quickly. And so addressing all of those items is critical. So then coming up with pilot and use case designs, right? Running a phase pilot, hitting those high value use cases along the way, one after another, will lead to wider adoption across the organization. They have to see that there's some tangible value in using this. And then they'll start thinking, oh, well, what about this or that? And that typically runs into tons of use cases after they've seen something of high value, come to fruition. Communication and training through multi-channel. Some people love email still. Some people love Teams. Some people like to get a text message, right? Whatever. And tailored trainings and active feedback loops, meaning we really believe like every organization is different. Some organizations are really far behind and old school around technology and work fast to adopt things. I look at like when 365 first came out and people were moving to the cloud, a lot of people were scared. Oh, I'm not going to go there yet, and so on. And so ensuring that we make sure that everyone is using the tool safely and securely. AI is kind of that exact same way today. And so making sure everyone's knows what they're doing and is trained properly and constantly communicated about best practices is critical in this ever-changing world. So measuring adoption and success, we use analytics and continuous improvement to sustain the success. You can turn on a tool and it might just be shelfware. And a lot of times it is because people haven't been trained. So by measuring things and looking to see what has happened post implementation from prior to implementation is critical to ensure like you're getting the value out of it, right? You can't pay $30 per user a month or the new $22 user a month for small business if we ultimately are not measuring it and not seeing any business value in ROI. So for example, a lot of times the sales organization is one of the first ones I do for most organizations, and being able to see their opportunities or leads go up at a measurable pace by looking at CRM and then looking at the Copilot dashboard to ensure that people are actually using it. We're able to define and figure out what ROI looks like and ultimately help the organization achieve greater results. So constantly measuring and getting feedback from people in the organization is critical to maximizing the value and meeting all of the users' needs. So quantifying impact and ROI. So like I said, I guess I kind of jumped ahead there. Increasing sales win rate by 2.5%. Qualified opportunities by 2.7, approximately 9 hours saved per month. These are examples of actually a real client that we've worked with, and ultimately seen this level of gain because we were measuring and training them constantly and ensuring that they were successful using the tool. And that's, again, critical in ensuring success. M365 Copilot enablement. So the way we take this is we come through in a readiness assessment. We ensure, again, your data is secure, your permissions right, your deployment and configuration is tailored to your business and not tailored to everyone's, because there's a lot of opportunity to really tailor it to fit your business instead of just being wide open. And we can do a lot of different things there. Constantly doing the trainings, as I mentioned before, and governance and change along the way ensures long-term success for everyone. All right, so now we'll jump into Ignite 2025 highlights. They introduced a lot of different things. So intelligence layers like Work IQ and Fabric IQ and Foundry IQ that connects all of your data and context and reasoning with our agents. And so it ultimately elevates the capabilities of Copilot and all of the other agents that you have. The concept of agentic enterprises take hold with first-party agents across Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, specifically designed for creation and editing workflows and so on. So there's a lot that this is going to do. You can think about the Microsoft graph, but this is for AI. All these IQs are, and it knits them all nicely together to connect your data across the enterprise or small business. So then they're creating new agents. There's a bunch of them. Agent 365 is coming, which is your one place that orchestrates and governs all of your agents across your organization. So if you have custom agents and so on, or just the out-of-the-box agents, you're able to govern and set up permissioning and so on, whereas before you had to do them on a one-off level. And then there's also, new things rolling out all the time with Frontier, such as like the App Builder agent and Power Automate agent for workflows and so on. So they just keep coming up with new agents. So making sure that you're governed and safe is critical. Voicing and chat. So Copilot Chat is now voice enabled. You're able to talk to it, kind of like how you talk to Siri or Alexa or whatever. It's free for all users. You're able to just, hit the voice button and be like, "Hey, Copilot, what am I looking at?" and take a picture of it, right? And it will run through. So voice is just something a little bit more natural than having to type every question and so on, and it makes it a little quicker too. Adoption and momentum. So 90%, they announced, of Fortune 500 companies use Copilot today. And more than 82% of all orgs across everywhere have adopted or piloted Copilot in the Fortune 500. And so that's a pretty large adoption rate. So if you haven't gotten there, you're probably falling behind. And I'm going to be honest, I'm already seeing a competitive advantage of organizations that use Copilot versus they don't. And your people the employees are starting to really want this, and it's a no deal for them not to have Copilot and have that digital assistant for them that can help them. And so, I've seen people leaving organizations just over this. I've seen people, just telling their company, "Hey, well, if we had this, we could be this much quicker," and so on. So you're going to fall behind, and your competitors are going to get ahead of you if you don't. So,
Dustin?
Yeah.
Dustin, we have a question about what the intelligent layers are. Can you provide a little bit more detail of what those are?
Yeah. So, Work IQ is really the knitting around all of your tenant data. So it is your Word or your SharePoint content. It's your OneDrive content. It's your Teams content. It's your Planner content. It's your Outlook content. It's It's everything in M365. And it basically knits it all together. So it is quicker to reason over and going to give you quicker answers. The Fabric IQ is around data. So data that exists inside of your organization that like is in SQL in Azure, and in data, anything in Dataverse really, and so on. It's going to be able to reason over that data in SQL tables and so on. And then Foundry IQ is around actual AI, so the AI inside of Azure, so Azure AI Foundry. When it connects to say your Salesforce data or your SAP data or any of those other line of business systems. It basically is pulling that information all together. And so it basically gives one seamless framework across your external data, your AI data, and your actual tenant data all at once. And so it helps give your data, your context to your data, and helps reasoning. So AI doesn't have to work as hard because the data is already there at a higher level in an API. Did that answer the question? I hope so. If not, feel free to ask another question, but I think that should have.
No, that was helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And so agentic enterprise and new agents. So that you can, there's now agent mode, and you can create slides directly through chat. There's actually, they're rolling out the new the new GPT as we speak. And so that's another thing that's rolling through. Voice and Outlook chat, so you can use natural language to ask Copilot for summaries, replies, and schedule directly from your phone. And Agent 365 control plane, you can register, access, and govern all of your agents across apps and third-party environments from one place. So again, that was what I was talking about. It rolls all your agents, and now you can orchestrate all that stuff. Then there's specialized agents for like sales development and workforce insights, and custom agents that can automate tasks and enrich insights to scale your teams. And so they literally are coming up with new agents all the time, but then also organizations and third-party vendors are creating agents for all of their stuff. Like there's a Workday agent now and so on. So these things are just scaling, and they're going to continue to scale for the foreseeable future. Intelligence layers. So this goes back to the captures your communications, collaboration, and patterns. I should have probably just pulled this slide up the first time when you asked that, but it goes the pattern and personalized model of how your organization works. And then Fabric IQ connects your enterprise data sources, structured and unstructured, to feed Copilot with comprehensive insights. So it's kind of think about if you gave somebody in your organization access to Power BI reporting, because it's able to now look at all of that stuff and give you answers about your data that you would have normally had to go research. The Foundry IQ adds reasoning to decision logic, enabling agents and apps to make smarter choices and automate complex tasks. So it can really, that's the whole idea of agentic frameworks. One agent's doing one small thing, and then another agent's going to pick up where that one left off, and they're going to work all together to accomplish a goal. And they're going to be able to do that a lot better using Foundry IQ. All right. So then we have the introduction to the SharePoint Knowledge Agent. And so why does it matter? This is one thing I'm super passionate about. And I think it's one of the best things that's come out of Microsoft besides Copilot in years. Really what this does is help an organization build a solid information architecture. In the past, I have created countless intranets and ECM, enterprise content management platforms for companies on SharePoint. where you have to thought metadata for each file to tell your data about your data. And it could have worked really well. People are lazy, people get busy, people just won't do it. There's not a lot of strong leaders who are like, hey, you have to upload the metadata for each file. Well, we can use AI for that now, guys. And so AI is able to look at that content and tag the data itself for leveraging Copilot and leveraging large language models. And so you're able to say, hey, in this document, what is the right who's contracting this contract, right? And it's going to go through, read it, and read the content, and it's going to the content with that person's name, right? It's going to what's the contract value? It's going to tag it with that. Who the client is? Well, maybe that client is the Department of Defense or some really important client of yours, or that you need to lock that. Everyone in the organization shouldn't be able to see that file because it's related to this one entity. And so you're able to say it's DoD and then use Purview or other tools to use auto labeling and say, hey, this is DoD. Let's lock it down to this permission group, right? So metadata can really go a long way for your organization. You can apply retention off of those things that it ends up pulling out. You can apply or the sensitivity labels I just mentioned. So you get structured fields that ground the LLM output for repeatable, reliable results. AI is really good at looking at all of your content. Don't get me wrong. But when you have the data already tagged, it's going to take that as the primary source, and it's going to then filter everything down. So it's going to be quicker, faster, more reliable. If you say this is something, if like, for example, you put the year or ask the knowledge agent, it's the year of this document was created. I mean, the creation date on the document, like in SharePoint, might say it was today, but it could have been 20 years ago, right? We just uploaded the content. And so having that tagged right up front, then you're able to ask Copilot, hey, only give me stuff from this year or that year. And it's going to be reliable, right? So there's a lot there. Metadata understanding is already GA and rolling. Internet page reasoning and embedded PowerPoint images is GA. Encrypted content with sensitivity labels and DLP is also GA. And the knowledge agent helps all of that stuff get better. So momentum, 1,800 people or 1,800 clients have already joined the public preview in 2 months. And early feedback from Mars, who makes M&Ms, and Mount McDonald and Allegis highlight faster discovery and intelligent curation, meaning they're finding things quicker, they're getting the right information better. It's not hallucinating as much. It's giving the proper information, and they're able to search and find things too because the metadata is already there and doesn't require user intervention, and it just does it itself using the power of AI. The new updates are there's a site level opt-in. So you can literally just say, hey, I only want this on one site because and I'll show you how this works. And maybe you only want it on one. If people use the knowledge agent and they do not have a Copilot license, they will ultimately be charged at a pay-as-you-go model for that. And so, but if they have effective early 2026, they will, if they have the full M365 Copilot license, they will not be charged. So it's important to make sure, if when you're rolling this, you have a plan around that, right? All right, so with that, we'll jump into the SharePoint Knowledge Agent demo. All right. So I just have this small document library, and I could do it with tons of documents too. It doesn't matter, but I just wanted to show the power of this real quick. So I have a bunch of service agreements, and if I just open one up.
Hey, Dustin. Dustin,
What?
we're not seeing your screen for a second, so let's make sure we get that going right now.
There we go. Sorry. Thank you. I appreciate you, Chair. Can you see now?
We got it.
All right. So we have some statements of work here. They're generic. It doesn't matter. They look different. If they are like, they don't have to be similarly formatted. As long as whatever I ask the agent to do, it can reason over it, and 99% of the time finds it, which is really crazy. I wrote the book on SharePoint Premium that information. You would basically train a model and say something's between this and this, and grab that thing. So like contract date and colon space, grab this, and then there'll be another space. And like if I created a rule, it would do that. But that wouldn't work for every different variation of content. This will. So it will reason over all the content and grab that piece of information you're looking for. So I have just a plain statement of work that has client responsibilities, blah, 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 out of pocket assumptions. If they had names here, it's a scheme right out this. And similar with this document, these are looking the same, but again, it doesn't matter if they're the same or different. So with that, we will jump over. There's now, if you turn on the knowledge agent, you have this open knowledge agent file. What you can do here is there's a bunch of stuff. You could summarize the file. You could create an FAQ for a file. You can get an audio preview of the file.
Dustin, we're still seeing the document. I just want to make sure we haven't changed screens a little bit there.
You're seeing the You're not
We're
seeing
seeing
the document. You're not seeing the document.
We're seeing the document library now. It took a moment.
Okay, got it. So you can ask a question. You can ask a question about a specific file or ask a question about the whole document library. What I really want to show is organize and set up rules and so on. So if I come here and I click on organize the library, it's coming in and it's going to do it itself. It's going to come in and auto generate what it thinks we want. So it came in and looked in the documents and was like, what's the agreement date? What is the service period? What's the maximum fee amount? And then and you can see these are different things for sure. You could then come in and say, hey, what is, let's think about this. What is the date of the agreement? So, I can type. I don't know why it's not letting me type there. Love live demos. There's always something. I just asked it for the date of the agreement, and that be different than the effective date. And so it came through, and it's going to look in and see the information. And I guess I guess that is the same thing here. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that was the same. Then I say summarize the contractor responsibilities. Will come through and it will start to build that, and it's coming through processing. And now here's the contractor responsibilities for each document. I could say, hey, for this, I only, for the end of the agreement, just give me the year of it. I can say, you could literally ask it anything I want to, and it will create those fields and those columns. And then I can just, once I'm ready, I can either keep the view or create a new view. I'll do a new view. So then I can later remove it. But if I come here and save it, come through it and it says autofill in progress. This may take a while. And so it's going to ultimately process all these documents that metadata on there, like you just saw going the autofill activity right now. And it's doing its thing. So that's pretty amazing. And you can have that consistently manage all of your document libraries and actually tag the content. So then there's also set up rules. So you could have it when it's starting to fill. And no, Matt is not filling out this metadata, it's doing it itself. So you could have it where it could send a notification based on when something matches something. You could have it move files. If this says DOD as the client name, you could have it automatically move it to a separate document library somewhere else. You could copy files between folders. You could review a status and so on. So that's pretty powerful. Yeah, I see someone has their hand up.
Victor, if you can put your question in the chat. I saw the challenge about Dustin turning off his video because it's a little bit laggy. But was there another question? If you want to put it in the chat, that'd be great.
All right. All right, can you see this presentation again?
Yes, we can.
All right, cool. So Ignite since really was talking about frontier firms the entire time, meaning you're at the forefront of this. You are taking AI and bringing it to all of your areas of your business and leveraging all the tools right to like ultimately automate and get you know agents in place and get more work done quicker. And so Copilot momentum is accelerating. Again, 90% of Fortune 500 companies are using this. And they are saying that 9 hours are saved per user monthly based on aggregated data. That's a lot of time when you think of a 40-hour week. If you're saving people 9 hours of their week or of their month, that's a lot when it stacks up. So strategic planning is always critical, and they need to ensure that they actually know what they're going to use this tool for and how to be successful. Readiness assessments and targeted pilots and strong governance are essential to ensure secure, responsible, high value deployment. And with 82% of organizations always already deploying Copilot, Ignite makes it clear. Now is the time to move from curiosity to execution. Again, if you don't, you're going to be left behind from your competitors and your peers and so on. So now from an individual perspective, if you're not learning AI or taking advantage of it, your peers are, then you could fall down from AI because if the organizations are going to look for folks with, know the skills. And the same with your organization. If organizations aren't adopting AI, people are the backbone of your organization, and you're going to start falling behind there as well. So let's work together, guys. I hope you enjoyed the workshop. And as a thank you for today, we are going to offer you a Cambay Solutions complimentary M365 baseline workshop. You'd get a hands-on introduction to generative AI and Copilot. We would give you real-world examples tailored to modern work biz apps and data and AI scenarios, tailored specifically around your organization, not a generic demo, and identify high impact and high value use cases. So we'd help identify a few of those with you guys for free. And then design, this is more designed for executive and leadership teams to really get it going. It's a 2-hour workshop, 100% free, no cost, no obligation. email either me, that's not Cambay Solutions, or Matt at matt.mail@Cambay Solutions. And we would be happy to have a call with you guys and plan for a 2-hour workshop to help get you guys off the ground and rolling. With that, do we have any questions in the chat?
Yeah, Dustin, I
Or in the-
received a couple of questions. If you want to go to the next slide there as well, that'd be helpful. What is the licensing cost of M365 Copilot right now?
So it depends on if you have an EA, but yeah, out of the box is $30 a user. And now they announced at Ignite there is going to be for companies, I believe, I want to say under 300 people, but don't hold me to that. It's going to be $22 per user for smaller organizations to get everyone on AI. And that's what Microsoft's trying to do.
Okay, I think that's the only other question that we had. We got 4 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, please put them in there. So as a follow-up, as Dustin mentioned, we're offering the free 2-hour workshop. We'll follow up and just send a quick email around that. If you are interested, we would send you a questionnaire to understand what your kind of initiatives are that you want to focus on. And then lastly, I want to point out, as I said, look for an email from us. We're doing another webinar on January 14th, which is a Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And we're going to be focusing on Copilot agents and what we call the more AI advanced capabilities that Microsoft has to offer. So we'll provide details later on about that, but please love to have you attend. And we really appreciate everybody joining today's call.
All right, thank you all.